Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ask a Property Manager, episode number 27. Today is July 1st, 2020, coming to you live here at Studio 2.0 here at Own Buffalo. I'm Andrew Schultz, principal broker of Own Buffalo Inc., and on today's show, we're going to be talking about how to handle a lease violation. Before we jump into that, I do want to plug our social media. New episodes of Ask a Property Manager drop every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, live on Facebook. You can find those at facebook.com/Buffalo Foreclosed Homes. You can also follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Own Buffalo. Our YouTube page, you can grab a link to that over at ownbuffalo.com. And last but not least, you can grab a free 30-minute consultation over on our website at ownbuffalo.com. Give me 1 second here and I will pull up the available time slots for next week. This week's actually already been booked out, so I don't have anything available for this week. But next week we do have a few slots open, so definitely take advantage of that. Guys, I do apologize if the connection is a little bit choppy today. We're having some internet connectivity issues here in the office. If for whatever reason this video is not watchable, we will be uploading a fully usable copy both to the Facebook page and to the YouTube page. So in the event that you're missing bits and pieces here live, I do apologize. Typically we don't have those types of issues, but today for whatever reason we are, and we'll just do our best to work through it. So there's our time slots that are available for next week as well. While we're here, we will talk about quickly the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast. As you guys know, as of tomorrow, that'll be our first solo episode, my first solo episode on the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast. I think we got a pretty good episode for you. I'm going to be discussing the upcoming end of the eviction moratoriums across the country. We're going to be talking about some interesting statistics from real estate professionals about how they're gauging their confidence in the market. And the best story of the day is about a tenant who literally took her entire garden with her when she moved. So you're not going to want to miss out on that. You can grab that episode tomorrow morning or everywhere podcasts can be heard. So your favorite podcast aggregator, whether it's iTunes or Google Play or whatever the case may be, Spotify, Stitcher, you can find it pretty much everywhere. So be sure to grab that episode. I could really use your support on that, and I truly do appreciate it. Next week's episode, we will be launching the all-new format, which will be a little bit more segmented. So you'll have some different segments in the podcast going forward. And we'll definitely have some more information on that for you next week. So let's jump right into our topic for the day, which is lease violations. And I wanted to talk about writing a lease violation letter and also serving that letter in such a way that you are going through the process properly and doing what it is that you're supposed to do. And guys, I apologize. It looks like the connection here is a little bit on the rough side, so hopefully you guys are able to catch the stream. Like I said, if we do have issues, we'll be able to upload the clean version on our end after we wrap up this episode. So we'll jump in here to the lease violation letters. There's a few different parts to a lease violation letter, and you want to make sure that you're including all of the parts that are necessary whenever you do one of these letters, because it's going to make the letter, number one, valid, and number two, enforceable. So the parts of a violation letter that you should be concerned about are, number one, the date of the violation, the date that you actually physically saw the violation occur. That's going to be your date of violation. You're going to want to make sure that that's on every letter so that it's crystal clear as to when the violation was noticed. Part two, you're going to want to reference the lease clause that was violated. I say that because it makes it a lot easier for you to point back to the lease as an indicator of why the behavior is unacceptable. So for instance, if you have a lease that says no pets and someone brings pets in, you would point to that section of the lease saying, you signed this document saying that you understand that no pets are allowed. Now you're in violation of that. So part three is going to be, what is the expected response? What are you asking them to do as a result of the violation? So going back to our example of you found pets in the home that aren't supposed to be there, you're probably asking them to remove those pets from the home. When is this due by? It's important to note that this might be a state-by-state type of a thing. Some states require you to give X amount of time on a lease violation to correct. So that's something that you're going to want to look into your state's individual laws, or maybe even on a local or county level, you may have some kind of a law there that needs to be followed. So just double check your state and local laws to make sure you're in compliance with how long you have to give someone to correct the problem. Number 5, include photos or evidence of the lease violation. So for instance, going back to our lease violation with a cat, with a pet, take a picture of the pet, take a picture of food bowls, take a picture of dog toys, whatever. We're actually going to show you a couple of live examples here in a couple of minutes, and when you see the live examples, you'll understand what I mean by that. But always make sure to include whatever photo or evidence that you have that the tenant is in violation of the lease. And the reason I say that is because it makes it a lot harder for them to argue when you're presenting them with the evidence right on the front end. And number 6, keep a copy of the letter for yourself. Keep it in your records for your own safety. Excuse me, not for safety, for your own well-being. Just so you have a copy of it and you can reference that further on down the road if you ever have to. You know, you may have to send a second lease violation letter and you want to reference that first one. Making sure that you have a copy of that first one in your records is going to be critically important. It'll also help you potentially when you're trying to decide lease renewals and things like that. Has this tenant had no lease violations and no late payments, or have they had a lease violation every week since they took possession of the apartment? You know, those things definitely have an impact when you're talking about doing a lease renewal. Next page I want to jump into is the how to actually serve the lease violation letter. You can always let a tenant verbally know that they are in violation of the lease. You have to be careful to approach this in such a way that you're not doing it in a way that it's going to be perceived as confrontation. Most of the time it's going to be perceived as confrontation because you're telling them that they're in violation of the document that they signed. They may not know. I mean, it may be a situation where they didn't realize that they weren't allowed to do something like set up a trampoline or something like that. Then you just reference the lease document and hopefully that resolves the issue. Then you'll get people who are just being maliciously non-compliant. People who have just decided that they don't care what your lease says, they don't care what your lease violation says. You know, those are the people that when you try to verbally discuss an issue with them, they're more likely to become combative about it. Typically, you can personally serve a notice to someone. What I would do is make sure that if you do personally serve it, I still follow it up with a nail and mail, which we'll get to in a second. But what I would do is just hand them a copy of it, print it on paper, let them know, hey, you are in violation of, you know, whatever clause of your lease, blah, blah, blah. Here's what we need to do to correct it. So if you can personally serve it, you know, maybe go for that route. Nail and mail is typically what you'll find. Either the tenant won't come to the door when you're trying to serve the lease violation. You're not catching them at home, something along those lines. Nail and mail is kind of a good option in that regard. What we do is we physically post a copy of the violation letter on the tenant's door. And you're going to have to check your state law to see if that needs to be posted open, posted closed. However, it needs to be posted such that it's considered acceptable in your area. And then mail it. And when I say mail it, I send it first class and I send it certified so that I can prove that there was a mailing that went out to that address, regardless of whether the tenant picks up that mailing or not. If I send it certified, I have a receipt showing that I paid for a certified delivery. You know, I've got the item number. If you scan that item number, it'll tell you, you know, the destination and things like that. Definitely a nail and mail is not a bad idea. Even if you do personally serve it, and definitely if you do it verbally, I still recommend doing a nail and mail no matter what. Just my personal preference, your mileage may vary. Check with your state and municipality to see what the requirements are if you're going to go that route. Email is a great way to, I think I'll include text message on here too. Email and text may be a way to inform someone that they have a lease violation. I probably wouldn't send it via text message, to be honest with you, because again, that leads back to, you know, the possibility for them trying to be confrontational via text message. A lot of emotion doesn't get picked up as well in text message as it does if you're having a conversation. So I would probably avoid text message to tell someone that they have a violation on their lease. If you're going to email it, you can send a PDF copy of the letter that you are typing out, or you can just type it right into the email and attach your evidence to there. The nice thing with email, it gives you a time date stamp as to when it was sent and who it was sent to. So that is kind of a nice thing when it comes to email. And last but not least, email with verification. So this is a little bit of a next level step. This is good if you are using something like, we use Authentisign here in our office to do our lease signings and things like that. It's a digital platform where we upload a PDF of the lease and we can drop spots for the tenant to initial and sign. they log in on their computer and they can initial and sign wherever they need to sign. The nice thing about that is, yeah, we can use it for digital document signature, but you can also do it for digital document delivery. And this is something that I took from Brad over at Rentworks in San Antonio, Texas. They've started doing this with their tenants who they've screened for apartments that are not being approved. And you can do the same thing when you're talking about a lease violation. You send their lease violation letter in through one of these software packages, Authentisign, DocuSign, PandaDoc. There's a million of them out there, and they're not very expensive. Well, what happens is as soon as the tenant clicks on that link in the email, it automatically creates a log that says, okay, on July 1st at 10:13 a.m., Andrew opened the email and clicked the link and saw the letter saying that he was in violation of his lease. You have a digital record of that. You know the IP address that they used when they viewed it and everything else. It gives you proof of delivery, essentially. So that's a good option as well if you are set up for something like that. If you're not set up for something like that already, it wouldn't be that hard to get involved in a situation, get involved with a piece of software that'll let you do that. Authentisign, DocuSign, PandaDoc. There's several of them out there. So that's something to consider. Definitely some lower cost options out there. And the nice thing with that email with verification is you have a digital signature. Sorry, not a signature in the physical, I'm going to sign my name sense. A digital signature in the sense of someone clicked on that, and regardless of the fact that they don't need to sign or initial, you're still getting proof that they opened that envelope, if you will, and that they read that letter, or that they received that letter at least. You can't necessarily prove that they physically read the letter, but you know that they opened and saw the letter. And generally speaking, that's going to be pretty good indicator that they received it. So what I want to do now is jump over to a couple of live examples of lease violations. Jump to our desktop here. And a couple of these are older. We're going to go over these a little bit more in depth. So this first one that I'm showing you, I blacked out the tenant names and everything to keep things private. This was one that we had that was a tenant who had brought animals into the home without us being aware of it. So I'll go through the parts and pieces of the letter here. The date of the violation is the first thing highlighted, October 6, 2017. On October 6, 2017, while inspecting your backyard, we found dog poo. Pretty straightforward. Tells you what the date of the violation was and what the actual violation is. Part 2, reference the lease clause that is violated. Per Section 11 on page 4 of your lease, there are to be no pets brought onto the premises, blah, blah, blah. It tells them exactly what it is that's being violated. Part 3, what is the expected response? You will need to remove the pet from your home and return it to a clean, pet-free, and odor-free state. Part 4, when is it due by? By no later than October 23rd, 2017. And Part 5, photos of the violation. I'm going to scroll down here just so you can see this is actually the lease clause. This is where we're talking about our evidence. So I included in the second page a copy of their lease showing that they have a no pets policy. And then the other thing that we did is we actually printed out photos, and these are time date stamped photos as well. We printed out photos showing exactly what the lease violation is. So you can see here that there are there's toys, pet toys and things like that. And unfortunately, it's not letting me scroll through these photos here at the moment for some reason. But we do have, let me see if that folder is still open here. There we go. Give me 1 second while that image loads up. On this one, it was pretty cut and dry because we actually had a photo. Of the. Nope, that's not the image I wanted. All right, apparently it's not going to. We actually had an image of the animal. We found a cat in the home. We found dog waste in the yard, but we found a cat in the home. So it was pretty cut and dry that they were in violation of their lease. So this was one of those situations where we sent the letter. We sent them the proof, in the form of the lease showing that they were in violation, and then in the form of the photos that we sent over, which I apologize they won't load. I actually had some good photos of this one showing the actual cat that we found, the cat litter box, the bowls, the toys, the whole shot. Like, we basically showed them, hey, you're really in violation of your lease here. And they remedied that situation. Actually, I think they ended up moving out of that home, if I remember correctly. So, all right, so now we are on to our second letter. This is not a good example of a lease violation letter. We're missing some key components here. So I wanted to bring this one up too, just to show that, hey, it's very easy to miss something on this that could create a headache for you down the road. I went ahead and highlighted the date of the letter. And the reason I did that is because there's no date of violation on this letter. So we're using the 13th of December as that violation date. That may have been the date that the violation was discovered, but it's not specifically noted in here the day the violation was discovered. So that's something that should be in any of those letters. It's brought to my attention there's a lot of debris and a refrigerator on the exterior rear of the home. Please clean up the debris and remove the refrigerator immediately. So here you are talking about part 3, the expected response, and part 4, when is this due by? We want it done immediately. And then we also reference on Monday 23rd that we're going to be back out to the property to reinspect. Realistically speaking, that's going to be when it's due by. We want it done immediately. As long as it's done by Monday the 23rd, the lease violation is basically met at that point. And then, you know, what happens if they don't take care of the lease violation? Then we have to have a contractor go out and they're going to be back billed for that service. And again, we're able to do that because we have that written into our leases. So what are we missing on this letter? We're missing the date of the violation. We're missing a reference to the lease clause, which all of our leases have clauses in them about not leaving excess debris inside or outside the home. So that's not in here. We talked about the expected response and when it's due by. And we did, let's see here, we did get a photo of this violation. Let me see if I can get that to load. I apologize. I didn't think we were going to have so many headaches with our technology today. Hey, there we go. That one loaded right up. So you could see that they had a pile. And all of this back here was like cans or something like that. It wasn't junk, but it couldn't stay regardless. And you can't just leave a refrigerator sitting outside. So that's the reason why this lease violation letter was sent out. And we sent this letter along with that proof. So there was photos of the violation. So this letter met of our criteria. Date of violation was not met. Referencing the lease clause was not met. Expected response was met. Let's see here. When is it due by was met, and the photos was met, and we kept a copy. So we met some of our criteria, but not all of our criteria on this letter. Just goes to show you that even professionals, when they're doing these letters, it's very easy to miss something, which is why it's good to have a strong template that you start from. And then every single time, you're going to make sure that you're hitting those concerns each and every time that you have a lease violation where you need to send a letter out. So that pretty much wraps us up for lease violations. I want to switch back now. We actually had a really weird news story come out. I wouldn't even call it a news story per se. It was actually a Facebook post that I pulled from the Rent Prep from Landlords Facebook group. And this is crazy. Like, you never know what you're going to find when you jump into an older style home. I'll read a little bit of this post. This was posted by the Guilford Police Department. And basically what had happened is a home that was built in 1843 had been expanded on over the course of the years. And at some point, an open well had been basically just covered over with flooring. They didn't do anything to cap the well. And eventually, over time, the flooring had rotted out, and someone literally fell through the floor as they were moving into this home and into this well, which is just totally crazy when you think about it. Yeah, it says here, you know, at some point the well was covered with simple wood flooring, no subfloor or well cap. So, I mean, I can't imagine that whatever the construction was done at a very professional level. And then when the tenant was moving into the home, they literally fell 20 to 30 feet deep down into this well that was never taken care of and was never capped. So that's totally crazy. Like, I mean, we deal with a lot of older housing stock here in the city of Buffalo region, and I know a lot of people, especially along the eastern seaboard, it's a lot of older style homes here. It's crazy to think about walking across your floor and then falling through it and into a 20-foot well. Like, that's just unreal to even think about. But yeah, kudos to the to the Guilford Fire Department and the Guilford Police Department for being able to step in and help in that situation. Hopefully the victim was able to get out relatively unscathed. I don't know if they mention everyone went home safely tonight. Okay, so it looks like the victim was able to get out of there without too much difficulty. But that is just a totally crazy situation. I cannot believe that. Guys, that pretty much wraps us up here for this episode of Ask a Property Manager. Thank you so much for joining us. New episodes of Ask a Property Manager drop every week on Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page. You can always catch the replay on our Facebook page or over on our YouTube page as well. These typically do get uploaded on a weekly basis the same day. So you usually can find these on our YouTube page the same day that they go live on Facebook. New episodes of the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast drop every Thursday morning. Don't forget, tomorrow's are my first solo episode, so please be sure to tune in. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/buffalo4closedhomes. Follow us on Instagram at instagram.com/ownbuffalo. You can catch a link to our YouTube page over on our website at ownbuffalo.com. And last but not least, don't forget to grab your free 30-minute phone consultation over at ownbuffalo.com as well. Thank you so much for watching. We love producing Ask a Property Manager. And the best way that you can help us to improve is to drop a question in the comments, either here on Facebook or on YouTube, and your question may be answered in an upcoming episode. If you enjoyed this content, or if I brought some value to your day, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. YouTube and Facebook both push videos based on community feedback, and every like, comment, subscription, and share helps us to grow and to reach more people. Next week's episode drops on July 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back with another show that you won't want to miss. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.